The opinions in this podcast are all our own.
But the businesses are real chamber members.
It's a chamber chat.
Coming to you from Wahoo, Nebraska. Chamber Chat with Kate
And Kat.
Welcome to Chamber Chat with Kate.
And Kat. I'm Catherine Nygren.
And I'm Kate DeCoste. This podcast is everything Wahoo Chamber of Commerce.
Well, Kate, today we've got a guest in the studio.
We do. We were chatting and we didn't hit record.
I know.
So I thought we better do it.
But now we're recording.
We are
so
recording.
All good. All good. So we've got Ryan Hurst. He is the general manager for the City of Wahoo Utilities Department.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
This is great. This is it feels really professional. I was,
Oh, well, thank you.
Before this started, just talking about all the gadgets and everything. It's really cool. I feel like I figured there'd be a green room or something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe
someday. There'll be a little green room with snacks and drinks before we start.
There you go.
Yeah.
Don't tempt Kate.
I know. I'll be like,
Wait a minute.
We just celebrated our 1-year podcast anniversary, and the very
really?
first one we recorded, we stood around like one microphone and talked into it. So
yes,
Right.
yeah.
having 3 mics and a camera and a soundboard, it's like
Yeah,
good.
we've progressed.
Yeah. You guys are hitting the big time.
Yes.
But enough about us. So let's
Yeah.
talk about what's going on downtown.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. All of a sudden, there's cones downtown, and every
Yeah.
time I go to the coffee shop, that's all the talk I hear about is like, "Ooh, what's going on?" And
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, Wahoo Utilities, we started a process a few years ago of designing and we're finally getting to the messy part, which is replacing all of these 90 to 100-year-old water mains in downtown Wahoo. So that's what we're doing. So,
Wow.
nice, and it's a huge project.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
about 33 blocks of water main.
Holy cow!
is
Wow.
what we're replacing.
Mhm.
And then if you think of the scope, that really a big part of this project started a couple years ago. We replaced didn't replace, but put in new water line from 11th to 7th on Linden Street.
Okay.
So that was actually the first chunk of this that we did, kind of expedited that part of it
Gotcha.
for the overlay project on Linden Street. So it's a big chunk of mains, and there's a lot of water services to homes and businesses. And so,
Sure.
Mhm.
yeah, and it's a big part of our community, but needed, really needed.
Well, yeah, 90 years.
Wow. How did you decide it needed to be done? Like,
Yeah.
what was I think it's time to
Right.
replace it.
Right.
So when I came on board back in 2019, one of the first things I, really, you want to lay a foundation. And so reached out to previous, JO does most of our engineering here in Wahoo, and they're just a great partner with the city.
Yeah.
They're part of our city. They're part of our community.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Having been, a utility superintendent and then working for 2 other cities, it's unique to Wahoo.
Really?
That partnership with having, JO in our hometown here, it's something that's special. And
Yeah.
So, when I came on board, I asked, hey, what kind of master plans have been done recently? I'd like to review them when I get here. And they said, well, it's been a while.
Funny you ask.
Really long while.
Let's dust it off a
Yep.
little bit.
So
and
really, we had to start from scratch, and so
Sure.
we that first year in 2019 was really getting those kicked off in all 4 departments: the electric, the natural gas, the water distribution, and the sewer collection and treatment facility. So just doing some master planning. That was where we really indicated some of those priority needs and improvements we needed to make, and the number one was downtown Wahoo.
Really?
And so,
okay.
Yep, just the age of the infrastructure, the amount of main breaks that we have had historically downtown
Sure.
jumped off the page. And so we decided to make that investment for 1 or 2 reasons. Obviously, the main breaks are our number one goals of Wahoo Utilities is affordable, reliable, and safe utilities, right? And so
Right.
we want to make sure that all 3 of those legs are standing at all time, and so that reliability aspect's important. However, we also wanted to pair that with what other needs of the community, which are the streets downtown.
Right.
And
Sure,
so
sure.
if you stopped into City Hall or you've called up your council member or the mayor and said, we really need to fix these streets, you can kind of be mad at the utilities department.
Right.
We have been putting it off, waiting for the financing mechanism.
Sure.
Because we didn't want to put new streets, new, sidewalks, anything over these mains that are just going to break.
Right.
So-
Right. No, and that totally makes sense. And I mean, I can see why people were like, hey, why, but you had an answer.
yeah.
Right.
You know?
And you didn't want to keep just putting a Band-Aid on it. I
Right.
remember at our old location, like across the street at the bakery, there was always, there was water main breaks there several times.
Gotcha. Oh. I don't know if maybe I just never heard anything because I'm over here. I'm not downtown,
Right.
but though, I'm glad to have you on talking about this because I know like when you do go downtown now, it is like, I went and parked in front of one of the offices, and I was like, can I park here? There's a cone, but the cone wasn't in the street
Right.
and everybody else was parked. So I can still park here,
Yeah.
but I know that it's just kind of getting ready for it and,
Right.
and that in that area.
Mhm.
But, yeah.
Yeah. So it looked like, okay, so you're going to replace all the pipe. We've got the old pipe, the 90-year-old plus pipe.
Yeah.
And we're taking that out and replacing it with like a newer, better pipe.
Yep.
That'll
So,
last.
and we're upsizing also.
Oh.
If you think about fire protection, if we try to go back, and I was saying before the podcast started, what's interesting is some of these pipes we're replacing, we were looking through old projects and design specifications for another aspect of this project, and then also our lead service line replacement and galvanized requiring replacement project we're kind of simultaneously working on. A lot of those design specifications were from 1934. That project was in 1934, and on that map they had proposed mains and existing mains, and a lot of these mains we're replacing were listed as existing mains back in 1934. So they're at least 90 plus years old, and so
Right.
it's time. And sometimes it's not just the age; it's also the size and the type of material they used back then. And so,
Right.
so they're replacing this with what's called C900 plastic pipe, and there's a lot of reasons why you go. Not everyone uses plastic pipe. Most municipalities do. You might find some parts of MUD and stuff they're still using ductile iron. It's a lot cheaper. It's credited to last 100 years is what it's projected.
Okay.
And so, but I started to talk about the size. We're increasing the size, and back in I think 90, 100 years ago, the size of fire trucks they had.
Right.
Oh,
I was gonna say
right.
Nothing,
They
right?
barely,
Right.
They barely had cars,
They-
right?
yeah,
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so now if we have a downtown fire, the fire flow out of our hydrants is just not up to what we
Up to
need
speed. Yeah.
for
Makes
these
sense.
buildings, for our equipment that we can use these days. And
Right.
so we should be improving our fire flow and fire protection downtown drastically. Like
Oh, wow.
at one fire hydrant, over 1,000 gallons per minute more water can be used.
Oh,
after this
wow.
project
That's
is done.
significant.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of a game changer for fire protection.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's not just the main breaks and that. It's actually improving our fire flow downtown.
It's kind of
Right.
like looking towards the future and what's the future of Wahoo look like and what
Right.
what is it going to need?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and that's a great thing to know too, just because it's not just, well, we're replacing 90-year-old pipes. It's, well, we're replacing so we can, all of these things that it's affecting. It's like a
Right.
little trifecta
Mm-hmm.
of, yeah. So, and I think everybody will be happy to know that the, fire department can utilize their power.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I mean,
gonna
if
hold them
something's
back.
on fire, I would want them to use all the power they have.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you want to tell us a little bit about the process? I know it's
Yeah.
kind of started down by St. Wenceslas there on First
Yeah.
Street and kind of working up the street. Kind of like, what are we expecting
Yeah.
to see with all these cones that are sitting out?
Right.
Right,
Yes.
right.
I know. There is a lot of cones down there too. So it started at First and Linden, First and Linden Street, and started going north to 4th Street. And you probably, if you drove by the church, noticed that there were these, orange fences around.
Like those little triangular
yep.
like netting fences. Yeah.
So the process they're doing is called horizontal boring. It's a way in which they can put pipe underground without digging a hole the whole length of the pipe.
Oh.
And so they are taking a machine and literally it's like a drill. Think of like a tunneling machine that starts up on the ground and can send some drilling pipes down underground, and it goes to where they want, and then they kind of make a bigger hole the way pulling back, and they pull pipe back with them. And so then they don't have to dig up all these yards, don't have to dig up these streets.
So it's not like
that's
a
great.
big trench where you just unearth the
Right.
entire length of the pipe.
Right.
It's more like a laparoscopic surgery.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what we were talking about at the shop, where you make a couple incisions and be able to pull out what
Pull
you
out,
need.
yeah. That's
Right.
great.
Yep.
That's great.
And so there will be holes right at the beginning and the end
Sure.
where they gotta make connections.
Yeah.
Those will be, larger, and then there'll be holes at each water connection. Those will be small, where they tap the new water main and connect it to the homeowner's service line or the business owner's service line.
Sure.
So those will be there, but yeah, it makes a big difference. And they're going to go all the way up to 7th Street on Linden, and they're going to do very similar area on Broadway Street. They won't go all the way to 1st. I think they're going to stop at 4th Street there on Broadway Street. And then east and west on 4th and 5th Street, we're going to have some new water main going east and west, and 6th. I think 6th Street will have some too. So, yeah, it's a big project, and so some of those were due to, and some of them were like 10-inch mains on a 10-inch main on 5th Street. So just sorry, that's on 6th Street. Yeah, 6th Street. So. Yeah, a lot of big mains, a lot of stuff. And we're also doing some work, they'll notice, a little bit east of downtown on Orange Street.
Oh, okay.
All the way from 6th to 1st, and from Orange to Elm Street. I think it's Elm Street there.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
And so we're doing that. That's mainly due to that water main having had lots and lots of water main breaks. I think we've had over 6 main breaks on that line in the last 5 years. So
okay.
That's significant.
3 in one like winter we had on that line.
Okay.
And it runs right next to Sam Crawford Field, so we want to replace that before it breaks.
Yes.
And does something to Sam Crawford.
Right.
Huh.
That makes sense. Yeah. So that probably doing that way, it's probably going to take less time than digging up the entire.
It'll take less time. It'll save a lot. It saves a lot of money because you're not tearing all that concrete up and putting it all back.
Right.
And then it really reduces our disruption to business owners and people around the community, because then you're able to leave. If you can bore under a street, the street can stay open, and so you're gonna see them. But the reason they have to have all these little bitty holes along the way is every time they cross a sewer line or a gas line or another water line, they got to get eyeballs on that so they don't drill into it.
Oh yeah.
So,
well,
So
yeah.
you know what they're working with.
Right.
It's gonna
Right.
be an X-ray.
There you go.
Yeah.
into the ground.
So they've got this big. It's just like a vacuum, like you got at home, but instead they take this high pressure water and make a mud, a slurry, and they suck it out of the hole with them.
Oh wow.
That's why it sounds like one giant vacuum cleaner,
right.
Because it's got about probably 1,000-gallon tank on it, and it's just sucking mud and everything out of those holes, so they can. It's called hydro excavating.
Okay.
Huh. Never heard of it.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool process. And if people are interested in seeing it, you can walk on the sidewalks. Obviously, be respectful, be cautious,
Sure.
stay back away. But if you stay at a safe distance, you can kind of watch
what's happening
and watch what's happening. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and and the construction company doing, I forgot to mention, is K2 Construction.
Okay.
They're out of Lincoln, Nebraska. They were the low bid on the project.
Okay.
The project was bid competitively. We had quite a few good bids on it.
Oh, nice.
Theirs was $3.7 million for this project. So it's not a small amount of money.
Right.
But when I said that we had delayed this for 2 years, that reason of delay wasn't just because we wanted to hold on. We were waiting out of the infrastructure deal that was struck by Congress in 2021. There was a lot of money put into infrastructure in these existing programs, like what's called the SRF, the State Revolving Fund program.
Okay.
And the state of Nebraska can loan money to utilities for public utilities to do this kind of work. And normally, you know, those are lower interest bonds and that sort of thing. But because of the unprecedented amount of money and the emphasis on infrastructure, we received this we actually have $5.4 total million that we can do some more work with too.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
$5.4 million at 0% interest for 30 years with 35% loan forgiveness. So that means,
Wow.
you know, we're getting over $1 million of this project is going to be forgiven.
Wow.
And will not cost the ratepayers anything.
Wow.
So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, and with the 0% interest, and you take into it, we all are way more familiar with the word inflation than we ever wanted to be.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately.
Construction inflation outpaces, you know, standard inflation drastically. And so,
Right.
you know,
Makes sense.
to do this now and allow the future ratepayers to pay for this work is going to be really beneficial for our community. And this is just a big long-term investment.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would want to let, like, for residents or business owners of like what they should expect if they're on their right in front of their home or right in front of their business? Is there
That's a really good question. So they're going to do their best to communicate, you know, the service disruption. So you should expect that if you see them kind of working out front, a water shutoff is probably coming in the near future.
Yes.
Sometimes it won't be right away, right? They bore in all this pipe and then they might wait a week or so to start connecting it and causing water outages. And then it could be a few weeks before they start putting those individual water services because they got to fill the pipe with water, pressure test it, and then they have to disinfect it, and they have to take. We do, the City of Wahoo does this with all our water system all the time, but they have to pass 2 days in a row 2 tests. They're called coliform tests to make sure there is 0 bacteria living in that water.
Okay.
So they have to make sure the water's safe.
Right.
And so once that's all done, then they can finally start connecting homes to it.
Gotcha.
And so they should expect a water outage eventually. They'll communicate that. But I would expect if you see all those cones lined up, sometimes what that means is, hey, we're about to maybe take the parking away so we can do some work.
Right.
I talked about that hydro excavating. They may not be there with big equipment digging, but they might not want anybody parked over there.
Right.
So they have room to work.
So they have room to work. They can bring that big vacuum I was talking about, hydro excavate, and they might need those out of the way if they're boring so they can kind of follow, even though it's under the ground and they're drilling. They need to be able to follow that drill head all the way
where it's
along
going.
so they know where it's going because they have a device that you'll see him, he's just kind of walking out there looking at the ground, spray painting something, and he's marking where that drill head is the whole way.
Oh, wow.
And how deep it is and everything. So it's so that I would expect that and some parking disruptions and those sorts of things.
Okay. I do have to say, Wahoo has, like, when you were talking about the water and the tests, I mean, we are so lucky because we have
really are.
Such good water.
Well, I didn't even think about it being drinking water, you know, that you'd have to go through the tests and stuff. You think of like a hose, like you unhook it, you hook it up, you're good to go. But, you know, since it's for consumption, I didn't even think about like all the tests that you have to do to make sure it's safe to drink.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
What's unique about Wahoo and what's unique about Nebraska as a state, not all water systems are this way. We have a lot of them. Wahoo's one of them. We not only have a great amount of water under the ground, a great quality, we have no treatment. You know, we don't add we don't have to treat the water at all. We pump it from the aquifer to the water tower with no chlorine, no fluoride, nothing. It's just pure water.
That's why it's so good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Because then when you just know, like when you go somewhere else, even like Linker, you know, I'm like, oh, this isn't good. Like I'm like, this isn't Wahoo water. Yeah. And I like bring along my Wahoo water when I go.
And I've having worked for 2 other water systems, you know, I've always worked at chlorinated water systems that require a lot of treatment, water treatment, and I never bothered. And then now that I've lived here for 5 years, I noticed the chlorine.
Yes.
And I'm like,
that's what that is.
It's chlorinated water.
Yeah.
For years, I was, it's no big deal. And,
right. Until you, don't have it, then.
And we noticed that during harvest, something kind of happens. Where a lot of dust is kicked up in the air. And so on the top of our water tower, there are vents that have to allow for that air to come in and out as the tower's full. And so that's why every fall we do that disinfection for a couple weeks.
Okay.
Just to kind of make sure no dust or bacteria grows in our tower throughout the system. So
right,
that's that week to a year that everybody's like, oh, I taste the chlorine.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah. It's just something we try to do as a preventative measure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Huh. Things you never thought about.
I know, I know,
but make total sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Should we talk about like the length of the project? You know, obviously it's a huge project, lots of blocks involved. Like we're in for the long haul. We're making improvements for the future, but it's going to take a minute.
It's going to take a minute.
Sure.
And I use this reference every time I talk. One time I used a reference and there was a lot of people my age or younger than me. And they all looked at me with blank stares because they'd never seen the movie. So have you guys ever seen the movie The Money Pit with Tom Hanks? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, where the one crew comes in and just destroys the house.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so that's what I always use as a reference because it is painful. There's no I don't want to sugarcoat it like, oh, you won't even notice we're there. Oh, you'll notice we're there.
Right.
Like we're going to have holes in the ground. We're going to have to shut water off. We're going to do our absolute best to communicate, and we're going to be there to listen and to make sure that we can hear what we need to do better.
Right.
But it's going to be a painful process. It should last about a year. I would expect we finish up about this time next year, if I had to guess. Whether it will be a little dependent on how early and how winter starts and how late winter ends. Will affect it.
Can you work through winter at all, or kind of depends on how mild the winter is, or is it going to kind of shut down for
That's a good
the
question.
cold season?
They can do some of the work during the winter. The drilling, it has to be above freezing for them to use that. Because as they're sending that drill rod down, they use water as a slurry to kind of keep the mud that they're getting out.
Right.
And so that you have to have above freezing or the water will start freezing up on that. So
right.
I would suspect during those real cold January, you won't see much work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in people's yards trying to put in water services if you have 16 inches of frost and really
and
ripping
snow
up
on
yards.
top. And,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So I would suspect we'll see a break in this over the winter.
Sure. Sure.
That makes sense. So if people wanted to know more information about it, like can they go to like the city website, or I know like on Facebook, the city has been posting some videos, like what kind of resources?
All the above, right?
All the above.
Yeah. But yeah, the city website's the best place to go. We actually have a tab under the Wahoo Utilities Downtown Water Project. So go there and all of our resources are there. We are putting a lot of information on social media.
Sure.
Aaron Guston, the water wastewater supervisor, he works with me, and he has taken on he loves this kind of stuff, right? I'm sure you'd have loved to be here today. Yeah. He's going to be putting some videos out and just weekly short video updates on the project.
Oh, good.
Talking it through, maybe doing some videos of the drilling rig and stuff so you guys can see. So follow us on Facebook. I think we might have another social media page, but I'd have to feel Melissa takes care of
that. I know it's City of Wahoo on Facebook. I'm not sure if I've seen it on like Instagram or anything or YouTube, but maybe.
Okay.
We heard from some interns a while back that people under 30 are not on Facebook.
Yes, that's correct. They're going to be on they're on the gram.
They're on the gram.
Yes. Or even on YouTube, like if you're doing videos and stuff like showing that, maybe if City of Wahoo had a YouTube channel, because that I think
get your kids on it.
Right,
yeah,
there you go.
The youngins like that. Yeah.
So you can go to our website. You can also just call City Hall. You got questions?
Sure.
Call, ask for myself, Ryan Hurst, the utilities manager. You can also reach out if you see the guys working. They are very approachable. Mike Dupuis is the name of the supervisor from K2 Construction.
Okay.
There's another guy from the City of Wahoo Utilities, Dave Hankey. A lot of people know Dave.
Yeah.
Former
JEO. He came to work for the good guys. I was just kidding.
Come to the light.
Yeah, that's right. No, he retired as a full-time project manager for JEO and just didn't want to stay retired. And so, I convinced him. I really convinced him to come help us with the utilities department. So he works part-time.
Nice.
But you'll see him downtown, and he's just tremendous. And so if he doesn't know, he'll find out real quick, and he's good at communicating. So don't hesitate to grab them. Ask a question, and if he doesn't know, he'll find out. So he's brilliant.
Nice.
We're lucky to have Dave. But any place you can go to find information, we're happy to help.
Nice.
Great.
And so then the next step in this process, is it then the street, the concrete and like new streets then? Is this kind of like phase one of an overall vision of downtown?
It is, yeah. I joke that, I'm going to get our part out of it, which is all underground infrastructure, kind of the ugly mess. But the more, revitalization, the street overlay, that gets to pivot to Melissa. City administrator.
Okay.
But no, we're all a team, and we're part of it. And so we wanted to get our infrastructure out of the way to make sure that wasn't a hindrance to the improvements they do.
Right.
And so, that is the next step. And so business owners should probably expect, after this is coming to completion, another process of what is downtown Wahoo going to look like. And I think that's going to be a very engaging process.
Sure.
Nice.
Sure.
The Chamber of Commerce, Teresa Klein, our economic development manager, she is going to be engaging, and obviously most of you at the Chamber know Teresa, all of you know Teresa. So yeah, she'll be part of that process. So, yeah, that'll be kind of the next phase for the city.
Well, and that's a good thing for people to know too, like that this is going to be a long haul, but you guys have already, like, it's not just we'll do this and now we'll do this. Like, you already have a vision for, maybe you don't have the little details of what downtown is exactly going to look like, but you're going to start.
Yeah.
And it's very
talking
future focused.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that's got it. That I really appreciate you saying it, because we never want to undersell the importance of affordability of our water rates. Right. And, and that isn't something that we want to take for granted. We have historically always been some of the lowest water rates in the state of Nebraska. As we were preparing for this project, we did have to have some pretty significant water rate increases. And I don't think that's something that we want to marginalize, because that does impact everybody.
Sure.
But I hope that we can see now that we didn't raise them just for an arbitrary reason. This was to execute investment for the next 100 years.
Right. Yeah, really.
And really it's an investment 100 years ago that people made, that Wahoo made before.
Right.
And so it's time to do that again. We've kind of lived off of that and maybe taken it a little further than we should have. That's why we had
put a couple Band-Aids on, but it's all good.
Right.
Yep. And so it's time to make that same investment they made. And if you compare to the water rates of what we pay, for a gallon, like 1,000 gallons of water, I think in Wahoo, is right around $2 or so. Right around $2 per 1,000 gallons is our rate.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
If you were to go back and correct for inflation, when they first built a lot of the water mains in Wahoo back in the early 1900s, they were paying about the equivalent of $18 per 1,000 gallons. So, the water has actually decreased. It's one thing that's really deflated over time.
You don't hear that very often.
No.
As technology and as things have improved, and also because they made that big upfront investment in the infrastructure, and we've been able to use it for so many years. And so, again, it's our turn to do that for our future generations. And the loan model works really well in that sense that, yes, we don't like the word debt, right? But the future users or ratepayers will be the ones taking advantage of this new infrastructure, and they're also going to be the ones paying for the infrastructure.
Sure.
So it's probably a more equitable way to do it instead of front loading that construction cost onto the current users.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's
sense.
great. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm excited.
So much information.
Yeah. I always think, though, I mean, I know it can be, where it's like, oh, I can't park there or all that. But I think it's super exciting for Wahoo, because I know I've heard a little bit about it before, like, oh, downtown's going to have this
It's
coming. And I'm like, when is it coming? And now I'm like seeing the work started. So I'm like, it's coming. It's here. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And I do want to mention too, for some business owners and some properties, currently we have one water line going in and serving like 3 or 4 businesses or actual buildings, which isn't really the right way to do it. It's just how it was done a long time ago.
Sure.
And so there may be some businesses that don't have water service directly into the business that will now. And so we wanted to spend the extra money and spend the extra time.
Right.
And so we will be bringing that water service at no cost to the business owner for getting it into the building.
Okay.
And so we will work with the business owner on the plumbing upgrades that need to be made.
Oh, sure.
To ensure that they all are paying separate water meter fees.
Sure.
Right.
It's just coming in and kind of splitting up. We're going to try and get that to where, and the reason we're doing it is there's been examples of downtown where a business is closed and a water meter is in this basement and it needs to be shut off. This business needs to be shut off. You can't do that.
Right.
So it's a safety thing, problem. And it's also just, kind of making that improvement. So along the way, we really took the perspective, well, let's not do this project halfway.
Right.
Let's
just,
try.
we're going to
do it right.
Yeah. Like do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just harder and it is more expensive.
Sure.
It's definitely cheaper now than it would be to try and come back and do it later.
Right. Right. And like you said, too, if you already do, like, say, new streets and new sidewalks and everything, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, we're going to put some holes in those streets and sidewalks now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I feel fortunate that we live in a community where everything, like the communication's there, the trust, like everybody wants to do the right thing, and like the quality of work, and it shows.
And I will, when it comes to communication, I do want to thank JO. Also, they have a communication team. They've helped us with that open house. They've helped us with a lot of the flyers and things we've put together. So
great.
They've been really helpful on that. Teresa Klein and her team has been really helpful also. So hoping.
Nice.
We are planning on June 19th. I think we have it. I hope I'm not saying something that's not in writing, but on June 19th, I believe we're having a open or kind of like a coffee chat there at Mocha C's.
Okay.
I think from 8 to 9:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So we're hoping to have a time to sit and talk about this project. And it's not, there's not going to be a program. I'm just going to be sitting there.
Right.
Just if you have a question and
show up, talk, and ask questions. So.
Sure.
Nice.
Sure. Well, that'll be great.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a good, like you said, hopefully it is the if you're listening, maybe make sure, like,
check social media,
check social media, because I do think that's a great way for people just to know instead of it being coffee talk without people that know.
Yes, you've got coffee talk with the expert.
There you go. Yeah. I'm sure there's other things I could talk about that I don't know anything about at coffee too, but at least when it relates to this, I can give an informed information.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, great.
Wow. Well, that was a lot of information.
I know. This was awesome. Thank you again for coming in.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah.
I know I learned a bunch. And
I did too.
And I've heard you speak at, Greater Wahoo and other things, so I was kind of filling her on the pieces that I knew about the project, but I still learned way more. So thank you for coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if anybody has questions, they can call City Hall. They can get onto our website or social media. So don't hesitate to ask questions.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming.
Yeah. So really quick, we just wanted to run down some of our happenings in June.
A couple things happening next week.
Yes. So on June 18th, we are going to actually have a ribbon cutting at 10 a.m. And it's going to be for JD's Craft Shack.
Oh, nice.
And that's right across the street from the courthouse.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been in, it's a cute little store, and you can actually do crafts in there. Like you have a paint night if you want. Like you just kind of, you can talk to them about it, because I thought it would be fun for, a little party, like just have a girls' night or something and do a little painting.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah. So that's, again, 10 a.m. on June 18th.
Perfect.
And then on the 20th, we're having another Chamber Connection.
I was going to say, it's that time again, isn't it?
It is.
Chamber Connections.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting when we do it now. Like last year we did it every month, and now it's like, oh yeah, it's this month with the every other month. And that one is with Clover Merchants, kind of teaching us the system
for credit card processing.
Yes. Yeah. So if you are a business that's maybe weighing in, like, should I get this one? Should I get that one? This would be a great little
absolutely
connections. And that's June 20th, noon at the Wahoo Library. And feel free to bring your lunch.
Yeah. And that one's sponsored by First Interstate Bank, correct?
Yes. Correct.
Nice. Well, thanks, Amy and crew, for that.
Yeah. And then we can't leave without talking about our Fireworks Fridays, July 4th t-shirt, hat.
Best holiday of the year.
Yes.
/ birthday.
Birthday.
Kate's birthday.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, the t-shirts are out. We just bought one for everybody at the shop.
Nice.
Everybody picked out their different color, the different styles. So
perfect.
Yeah, we can't wait. We'll wear those as a group and post pictures on social media and stuff. And
right.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. So you can still order those. There's actually shirts, hats, and blankets this year that you can order. And like you said, there are a few different designs and colors and all that. So I feel like it's styles for men, women, children, like everybody can find what they like, I think.
Jess got a pink one.
Oh, lovely. Yes.
Yeah, they're super cute.
Yeah. And you can find the link on our Facebook page. We have it as an event, and it'll say like Light Up Wahoo. And then we also have it on our website, wahoochamber.com. If you look for this, actually, if it's right on our homepage. If you scroll a tiny bit, you'll see Fireworks Fridays. So it's probably the easiest way to find it on the website. And then you can always, I think, pop into Rivalry if you're one that's like, hey, I'm out and about. I'm just going to pop in.
I just want to get my shirt.
Yeah. You can pop in there too.
Nice. And we're encouraging everybody to wear them on Fridays in June for Fireworks Fridays.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, on 4th of July.
Oh, of course. Yes. How could I forget?
Ooh, well,
that was a lot of information.
It was. Yeah. As always, thanks for listening.
And don't forget to keep it local, friends.
This has been a Chamber Chat
with Kate
and Kat.
See you next time.
I did it.
You did do it.
See, not so hard.
Not so hard, yeah. Right.